And the Washington Post reported Friday that the Trump team had pushed a plan to send detainees to sanctuary cities, sending a message to such Democratic strongholds as Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco district. The White House was pretty dismissive, saying in a statement, this was just a suggestion that was floated and rejected, which ended any further discussion. But hours later, the president tweeted that he is seriously considering such a plan.
California certainly is always saying, oh, we want more people. And they want more people in their sanctuary cities. Well, we'll give them more people. We can give them a lot. They're always saying they have open arms. Let's see if they have open arms.
Joining us now in New York, Katherine Timpf, a reporter for National Review Online. Here in Washington, Liasson, national political reporter for NPR. Both are Fox News contributors. Kat, so the Washington Post story says this. It's based on memos. The White House is dismissive. Trump comes out and says, yeah, I am considering it. Didn't he kind of undercut his own communications office?
Yeah, which is why I've never been jealous of anybody who has to work in his communications office, let me just say, because this is not the first time something like this has happened. They worked really hard to kind of minimize this and say, you know, we just kind of talked about it, kind of wanted to make it go away. And then he did the opposite, ensuring that it didn't go away by tweeting about it and saying, actually, yeah, you know, I'm very seriously considering this. And he just... you kind of makes you wonder how well lined up the two are, but he doesn't really care. He likes to go directly to the people on Twitter. I think he wouldn't even have a communications office if he could.
Yeah, sometimes it seems like it seems that way. So the New York Times then has this story saying that the president told the now acting Homeland Security Secretary to close the borders and said he would pardon him if he got into any legal trouble. President denies this. Here's one of several tweets. New York Times story, knowingly wrong. They never call to check for truth, says the president. Sources often don't exist. They lie and cheat. The Times in 6 years will be gone anyway. By the way, Times reporter Maggie Haberman tweeted, hey, he ought to check with his press office because we emailed 3 times for comment and didn't get any. Mara.
Yes, and he often says that after the election, the New York Times was failing. They had to apologize to their subscribers. They were about to go out of business. And then usually you have a Times reporter, as happened yesterday, saying, our subscriptions are actually way up. Look, the president likes to operate this way. He's a party of one. He believes he's his own best communications advisor. He likes to talk to the press directly. He doesn't really want to vet his ideas. When he gets an idea like, hey, let's own the libs, let's send the immigrants to San Francisco, he says, he blurts it out. It was kind of a self-own because I think every immigrant would want to go to San Francisco or a place there be welcome. Yeah. And a bunch of those mayors said fine.
Right. Whether it happens or not, we'll have to see. Yeah. But it certainly is something that he put out there as being provocative. So, Kat, on the Homeland Security shakeup, which dominated part of this week, I mean, the media consensus was the president's decimating that department, that he's making Kirstjen Nielsen a scapegoat, playing politics at the border. And the counter that I would ask in terms of all these media stories is, isn't he entitled to have the staff he wants?
Right, absolutely. A lot of people on the left try to say, look at all this, it's so tumultuous, people in, people out. I thought he hired the best people, but I think that everyone on the right and a lot of other people are saying, look, this is a businessman. This is not a typical politician. If he wants to fire someone and get someone new in there, then fine. And he wasn't satisfied with the job that she was doing, so he's got to have her be out. And that's the way a business works, and that's the way he's running the government, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
All right, it was a bit sad to see Kirstjen Nielsen outside of her Virginia home surrounded by press and saying, oh, she wanted to thank the president for getting rid of her and not really defending herself. But there were a lot of leaks from her side in the next couple of days saying, oh, she spent weeks resisting the family separation policy at the border. She argued he shouldn't close the border when he was threatening to do that, and that generally she tried to steer him away from moves that might be legally questionable.
Right. There are a lot of leaks, right, that suggested she was a kind of guardrail. She agreed with his goal, but she would push back against suggestions that she thought wouldn't pass constitutional muster. And that was definitely coming from her side. What I think the real story is that I think that when you see the headlines, purges Homeland Security, that sounds like he did something bad. The president is frustrated because he can't get the Department of Homeland Security to carry out his vision. You know, he can't get the career people to sign on to his vision, and the people he's politically appointed over there can't seem to be competent enough to work the levers of government.
Yeah, and some of it's been blocked by the courts.
Some of it's been blocked by the courts. But the bottom line, the way he should be measured or evaluated is not whether this is a purge or not, because you're right. He has the right to have anybody in these departments or nobody if he doesn't want to have anybody.
Well, a lot of people are acting.
Yeah,
in
a lot of people
capacity.
are acting. But the measurement is he meeting his goal to stop people from coming and asking for asylum on the border, and he hasn't been able to yet.
Well, others would say the Democrats don't have much of a plan either, and it is a genuine crisis now.
Right, but he's not asking them to make a deal with
I understand.
either.
All right. A lot of media coverage. The fact checkers, Kat, were sort of out in force when President Obama's name was brought into this. This is what President Trump said.
President Obama separated the children. Those cages that were shown, I think they were very inappropriate. I'm the one that stopped it.
In fact, while there were some family separations during the Obama administration, it really ramped up to well over 2,000 families when Trump adopted the zero-tolerance policy, and then he reversed it after an international outcry.
Right. Yeah, he really does need to be more careful, because I don't know if he knows this or not. Actually, I know he knows it because he talks about it all the time. But a lot of people in the media don't really like him. So they are going to be carefully, very, very carefully listening to everything that he says and making sure that it's absolutely correct. And even though President Obama wasn't the friendliest on immigration either, there's plenty of things he could have pointed to in terms of President Obama deporting so many people. But he took it a little too far by saying that it was President Obama leading to the separation of families, and he stopped it when really it was his zero-tolerance policy. And anyone who did a little Googling could know that.
We have that exclusively. Many in the media don't like Donald Trump. Mara, just to close up here, when Kirstjen Nielsen was pushed out, major news organization says that the president was again considering bringing back the family separation policy. He denied that the next day. It doesn't seem to be happening. I didn't see anybody backing off that reporting.
Well, I think, wait a minute, I think there were several places that explained he backs off of it as an explicit policy, but he said in the same breath it's a deterrent. In other words, they want the deterrent of having the threat of being separated from your children without the explicit policy, and I think several news organizations, including NPR, tried to point that out. All
right, good conversation, guys. Mara Liasson, Katherine Timpf, thanks very much for stopping by. After the break, an inside look at how Meghan McCain changed the view and why the show's primary conservative is often the target of verbal combat. And later, Charlie Gasparino on the fate of the National Enquirer.